He was her reason to rise. She was his reason to breathe. But sometimes, love doesn't save you. It leaves you with a song no one else can finish. Their love, it was never about happy endings. It was a melody only pain could finish. Welcome to the Love Storypedia, where love meets serenity. Subscribe for dreamy love stories that melt your heart, because every heart deserves a sleepy, sweet escape. Ryan Carter once owned the stage. His voice moved hearts, his songs topped every chart, and fans screamed his name like it meant salvation. But fame is fragile and Ryan fell fast. Alcohol became his rhythm, loneliness his melody. At 34, he was just a name people whispered about in past tense. One night, after walking off stage, mid-concert in New York, Ryan escaped to Nashville, hiding in a bar where no one cared who he used to be. He sat in a dark corner, drank untouched, eyes hollow. He hadn't felt music in years, and then he heard her. A voice floated through the room, soft, aching, honest. It wasn't polished, but it was pure, Rose Bennett, singing like she was bleeding through every word. Ryan didn't move. He just listened, completely still. When her set ended, he found her outside under the neon haze. "You have a voice," he said quietly. She looked at him, curious but calm. "So do you. Or you used to." Ryan smirked. "Ouch." She smiled. "Truth doesn't care if it hurts." He studied her. "Ever thought about doing more with it?" Rose shrugged. "I sing. That's enough." "It could be more," he said. "If you let me help." "Why would you want to?" He paused. "Because your voice made me feel something. I haven't felt anything in a long time." For a second, they just looked at each other. Strangers, wounded, searching. That night, there were no fireworks, just a quiet collision of two broken hearts under a quiet sky. And for the first time in years, Ryan Carter heard something louder than his silence. The next morning, Ryan Carter waited. He didn't know why. Maybe it was curiosity, or maybe it was the sound of Rose Bennett's voice still echoing inside him. Whatever it was, he found himself back at that same Nashville bar, long before it opened. And when she walked in, surprised to see him, she smiled without asking why. "You're early," she said. "I didn't want to miss it again." She laughed softly, setting down her guitar. "You really think I can make it?" "I know you can," he replied. Rose was hesitant. She'd heard promises before, empty ones. But Ryan wasn't just offering an opportunity, he was offering belief, something she hadn't felt in a long time. Over the next few weeks, Ryan helped her record a demo in a small home studio. He coached her gently, ever controlling, just guiding. And with every note she sang, her confidence bloomed. But what surprised them both was how much they began to enjoy just being around each other. Quiet moments, inside jokes, unspoken smiles. One evening, after a long session, Rose looked at him. "Why me?" she asked. "You could work with anyone." He leaned against the wall, eyes tired but honest. "Because your voice doesn't just sound beautiful, it feels like truth. And I think I needed that." She didn't say anything, but her eyes softened. That night, under the studio lights, as she recorded a ballad Ryan had written years ago, he watched her not as a mentor, not even as a musician, but as a man, slowly remembering what it felt like to care. And as her voice rose, Ryan realized something inside him was rising too. Not just music, hope. Rose Bennett's voice was no longer confined to the small Nashville bar. The demo Ryan helped her create began to make quiet waves online. Listeners were drawn not just to her sound, but to the emotion woven into every word. And Ryan, he wasn't just a mentor anymore. Late nights turned into longer conversations. Studio sessions blurred into walks beneath quiet skies. Laughter came more easily, and silence between them felt less empty. One evening, after Rose finished a soft, haunting cover of an old song, Ryan sat quietly beside her, his eyes locked on the ground. "You know," he said gently, "your voice saved me." She turned to him, surprised. "I thought you were saving me." He shook his head. "No, you reminded me why I sang in the first place." There was a stillness between them, soft, warm, fragile. "I don't know what this is, Ryan," she whispered, "but I feel it." He looked at her then, his voice low, trembling. "So do I." Her hand brushed his. He didn't pull away. Neither did she. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't rushed. It was slow, natural, real. But behind Ryan's gentle smile was something he hadn't had anything to lose in a long time. Now he did. As Rose's name began to appear on small music blogs and playlists, Ryan stayed in the background, never taking credit. All he wanted was to see her shine. But with every step she took forward, he felt himself slipping backward, unsure if he deserved to stand beside her light. Still, every time she sang his songs, every time she looked at him with those soft eyes, Ryan felt something he hadn't felt in years. Alive. Success came knocking faster than Rose expected. An indie label noticed her voice. Offers followed. Small gigs turned into bigger venues. She was rising gracefully, beautifully, and Ryan was right beside her, quiet and proud. But the world hadn't forgotten Ryan Carter. Some still whispered about him in the corners of rooms where Rose performed. His past clung to him like a shadow. One night after a show, as Rose stepped off stage to thunderous applause, she rushed backstage, beaming. "That was amazing," Ryan said, eyes shining. She threw her arms around him. "I couldn't have done it without you." He held her close, but his smile faded when her phone buzzed in, another call from her manager. Another invitation, another city. Later, in a quiet hotel room, Rose sat beside him on the bed, brushing her fingers through his hair. "Something's wrong," she said softly. Ryan hesitated. "I'm proud of you, Rose. I don't want to be the reason you stop flying." "You're not," she whispered. "You're the reason I even took off." He looked into her eyes so full of love, so full of belief, and he wanted so badly to hold on to it. But deep down, the fear had returned. The fear that she'd wake up one day and realize she deserved better. Rose leaned in, resting her forehead against his. "You're not a shadow, Ryan. You're my light." He closed his eyes, breathing her in. But in the corners of his mind, old demons stirred. He didn't want to lose her. But even worse, he feared she'd lose herself. Because of him. Rose's name now flashed across playlists, articles, and backstage passes. Her voice was no longer a secret, it was a sensation. And Ryan watched it all unfold from the sidelines, smiling, but aching. At every interview, every photo shoot, every performance, people asked, who discovered her? She never hesitated. Ryan Carter. But the world had a short memory, and to many, he was just a ghost of a career gone cold. The music world welcomed Rose, but it never truly forgave Ryan. One night, after a press event, Ryan disappeared. Rose found him hours later outside a bar, leaning against a brick wall, eyes distant. "You're drinking again?" she asked, voice trembling. "No," he said, not meeting her gaze, "just thinking." She stepped closer. "Talk to me." He looked at her, tired. "You're becoming everything I dreamed for you, and I'm just noise in the background." "That's not true," she whispered. "You're my melody, Ryan. You're everything." But he didn't answer. Silence stretched between them, filled with pain and pride. Later that night in the hotel room, Rose held his hand tightly. "Please don't drift away from me." He turned toward her. "What if I'm the thing that breaks you?" She shook her head. "You're the reason I'm whole." Tears welled in his eyes. "I'm scared, Rose." She pressed her lips to his knuckles. "Then we'll be scared together." But fear is a quiet thief. And though love still burned between them, a distance had begun to grow, one not measured in miles, but in moments unsaid, pain unspoken. Their hearts still beat each other, but for the first time, they weren't beating in sync. Rose was everywhere now: radio interviews, magazine covers, sold-out venues. She smiled for the cameras, but behind every smile was a quiet worry. Where was Ryan going? He still stood by her side, but his eyes had grown dimmer. His words came slower. His nights are longer. The man who once lifted her had begun to fall. One evening, after her biggest show yet, she found him sitting alone in their hotel room, guitar untouched, a glass of whiskey by his side. She took the glass gently from his hand. You promised. He didn't argue, just looked up at her with eyes full of regret. I didn't drink it, I just needed to remember who I was. You're the man who gave me everything, she whispered. Don't forget that. But Ryan couldn't help it. He felt like a chapter she had outgrown. Her phone rang again. Another interview, another event. She looked at it, then at him. I can skip it, she said softly. No, he said, forcing a smile. This is your moment. Don't let me steal it. She kissed his forehead, heart aching. You never could. But when she left, he stared at the door long after it closed. That night, he sat with his old notebook, flipping through songs he'd never finished. Lyrics blurred through his tears. He was proud of her, but somewhere in that pride was pain. Not jealousy, just the unbearable feeling of being unworthy. He didn't blame her. He blamed himself for not healing, for not holding on tighter, for slowly becoming the weight he once helped her rise above. And though Rose loved him with everything she had, Ryan had started to disappear, not from her life, but from himself. Rose came home one night to flash headlines. Ryan Carter causes a scene at the Nashville club again. Her heart sank. She rushed to find him, ignoring calls, ignoring cameras. When she finally reached the small police station where he sat alone, his hands were shaking, eyes blank. She walked in, knelt beside him, and whispered, Why, Ryan? He looked at her slowly. I didn't mean to. I didn't want to feel invisible. Tears welled in her eyes. You're not invisible. You're everything to me. But Ryan didn't answer. He just looked away, ashamed. Back home, the silence between them was louder than any argument. She tried to hold him, to reach him. I don't care about the press, the shows, the world. I care about you. But Ryan pulled back, voice low. And that's the problem. You shouldn't. Rose stared at him, wounded. Don't say that. I'm dragging you down, he said, eyes full of sorrow. Everywhere you go, my shadow follows. You shine, and I bleed. Her voice cracked, then bleed with me. Just don't leave. But Ryan was drifting. Not from her arms, but from the belief that he deserved to be held. That night, they lay side by side, barely speaking. Her hand searched for his, but he didn't move. In his heart, he had made a choice, not out of anger, not even out of pain, but out of love, a kind of love that sacrifices itself so the other can fly. And Rose, though she didn't know it yet, had already begun to lose him. Not suddenly, but slowly, like a song fading before the final note.